In March of 2020, we were all faced with the reality that we were entering into a global pandemic. We didn't know what exactly was going to come of it or what it was going to be like to educate kids, and so we did our very best here at Mineola ISD to put together a historical record interviewing students, teachers, and administrators about their experiences of when we shifted to virtual learning in March of 2020 all the way up to re-entering the 2020 and 21 school year. I can't be more proud of what our staff's been able to accomplish during this time. Starting from day one, August the 13th of 2020, we had 98% of our kids on campus in a district of 1,600 students. We never had to shut down during the pandemic. All of our campuses were able to stay open, and that's a testimony to what our organization's been able to accomplish, from bus drivers to custodians to maintenance workers to our teachers, aides, support staff, and administrators during a very trying time. We're also very thankful that we have a wonderful community that we live in that has supported us since day one when there was so much uncertainty, just not knowing exactly what may come of the decisions that we were making. And we can't thank our community enough for their support and rallying around the district during this time. But here's a historical record of what the students thought, the teachers, and the administrators during the 2020 and 2020-21 school year. Thank you.
I mean, my first initial thoughts were excitement. I was feeling that we were, having an extra long spring break and everything was fun at first. I mean, that was my first thought.
Yeah, I would say that too. I was initially really excited because I love to sleep until noon and do everything at my own pace and spend time with my family. And so I thought it was going to be an opportunity to do all those things that I loved. And then my second thought was probably more scared because in March it was so new that not everybody had all the resources or, the new medications to inform themselves on what was really going on. Especially being a student and not a doctor or a nurse, it was hard to get a grasp of reality, what was really going on. All we knew was that it was some super scary virus. We didn't know who it was affecting, why it was affecting us, and such like that.
It really surprised me. I was happy at first, but then it kind of got extended, and I didn't know what was going to happen. And then it got to the point where it kind of got out of control. It's kind of scary because if I get it, I could spread it between each house without even knowing.
As our quarantine went on, I realized just how serious it was, how everything was shutting down. And when we realized we're not going back to school this year, that was when it really hit that oh, this is kind of serious. This is something we should be worried about. It's not just spring break anymore.
I remember when I first found out, I was actually on a boat fishing with my friend, and his mom comes up yelling, "Well, you're gonna stay here for another week." And I was just real confused, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know if I was in trouble or something. And she came up to us and she told us about this pandemic. I originally knew, I didn't think of it or anything. And it got extended, and then I went back home for a couple more weeks, and then I guess we went virtual, I think, from there, and then it got extended all the way through. And I didn't really think it was that serious until it was the rest of the school year, and I saw the mask, and I was like, oh wow, this is really serious. So
I would say the hardest thing was, for me, was doing my math course online. That was definitely difficult. I was taking a trig course, and going from having a teacher to having to learn everything online was really difficult. But I mean, my teacher was did a super good job of communicating and helping out with our questions and anything that we needed. So that was good.
For virtual work, I ended up making a schedule for myself. During the week, so I would do school in the morning, and then I would go out and do the horses in the afternoon or something. So I wouldn't say the workload was a problem or the change to virtual.
I initially loved virtual learning. I'm a very self-paced person, and for me, instead of sitting in a classroom and trying to pay attention to what's going on in front of me, I could be in a comfortable environment. I could, have a smoothie. I could be at home being comfortable, and I could go at my own pace, which I really liked. If I learned something fast, I could just move on to the next topic. And if it was slow, I could go back, rewatch the videos, reread the comments, And so it was really actually a lot easier for me to learn virtually because I was a lot more focused on what I was doing.
I mean, it was so-so because there was different classes that I was good in and different classes that I wasn't good in, and then I didn't have a teacher there to help me, and I had to learn on a virtual, and so I got through it pretty well because my teachers, they know how to contact me, and they contacted me very well, especially in math. Miss Holmes, she emailed me, she walked me through steps of certain equations, and I was able to make it through.
I think the biggest thing was the social impact that it gave, because more than anything, like you can have a schedule and do work, but school is pretty much the main social environment for most students. And it was hard because, like I said earlier, I was thinking about the seniors and like, I'm not gonna get to perform with them again. And
My favorite subject learning virtual was probably math, because I remember I was in 8th grade, because I'm a freshman this year. Mrs. Godare was very, very good at communicating with me. We'd go virtual or have those Zoom meetings every once in a while, and so it was good to see my teachers.
And I definitely think that like the way that like the administration and teachers handled it was done really well, and the way that like quarantine was taken very seriously, and like wearing our mask and washing our hands. Like I think the teachers like helped the students enforce like all the rules, and that's why we were able to have, you know, a fall semester and weren't have to shut down or anything.
In terms of, you know, regular school life, I was okay with wearing a mask at school. I wasn't really worried about that. And hand sanitizer, I mean, I try to be a like generally hygienic person anyway, so I wasn't bothered about that either. And temperature checks, I mean, I was okay with that. It didn't bother me at all. I think, like I said, the main thing that I wouldn't say worried about, but kind of wasn't sure how it was going to go was band, but you know, it worked out and we're here, so.
I was excited because I get to come back to school and things kind of get back to normal, but it wasn't. It was still out of the ordinary because we had to wear face masks, temperature checks, and I was still worried even though we were taking highly precautions about this pandemic. And as we got through the year, I kind of got used to it, and then we would find people that needed to be quarantined very often, and that made me worried. But with all the temperature checks and just high precautions that we took, I felt safe here.
Yeah, I was definitely kind of like, it was out of the nowhere, like we had to wear masks, and it was kind of like, well, okay. And then we had to wear masks, and we had to do temperature checks, I remember. And so I was just kind of, I guess, okay, we can go along with the flow and eventually it'll pass, but I didn't think it was going to stay this long, so.
It was definitely a little nerve-wracking, especially it being my senior year, you know, having to have this completely unnormal beginning, you know, having to worry about being quarantined. That was like something that really worried me because I didn't want to have to miss out on, you know, my last cheer season and football season and everything and training for sports. I was definitely like really cautious because I didn't want to have to be quarantined and miss, you know, 2 weeks of school. That was something that I personally really worried about.
I know that since we had the virtual option, I had talked to my parents about I have to go in person, like being the head drum major, and even if I wasn't, even if I was just part of the band, I would be going in person for band, but it wasn't an option for me to do online at that point. And my dad definitely didn't like that, and he's much more cautious about that kind of stuff, and my mom kind of understood why I needed to go, and my dad understood too, but he was a little more frustrated, and I guess he didn't want me to make a decision based off of school and the programs I'm in and more off of me, but I mean, it wasn't an option for me. And, you know, of course I'm glad that I did that.
I think coming back to school was really worrisome because we had just been with our family members and trying to stay socially distanced, and while we could do our best with that at school, you know, you are in a classroom with a lot of different kids, and so it was definitely scary, especially when you have teachers saying, you know, you know, if you feel sick, stay home, and you're like, well, I do feel sick, but, you know, I don't want to miss out on my football game, or I don't want to miss out on a golf tournament. So it was definitely, I would say, yeah, definitely scary.
I wasn't worried about getting sick or anything. I was more worried about like things being different, like extracurricular, like not happening this year or anything. But it all happened it was pretty well. Nothing really changed and it went pretty good.
Yeah, definitely like at the beginning of the school year, I remember there wasn't a lot of COVID cases, but I remember we had to take like all the precautions and stuff. So I figured, I was like, well, with all these precautions and stuff, we can be pretty safe, and maybe there'll only be a couple cases and everything will go through our school year. But then there was a lot of cases beginning, I think it was October was when it started really hitting, and I was like, wow, so we might end.
With the amount of people that got quarantined, I didn't believe that we would stay open that long, but it started dialing down, and it's because we took the precautions of wearing masks, temperature checks, and just being safe around here.
So there were definitely a lot of people that were like, oh, well, cases are probably going to go up in about 3 weeks you'll have to stop going, and then maybe a month later you'll go back and that kind of thing. There were a lot of things like that, and like I said, my parents definitely kind of thought that. They were kind of anticipating they'll probably go for a little bit and then have to come back and be quarantined again and do virtual.
And at the beginning of the year, especially, I thought we would end up shutting down just because like every single day someone would get called out of class to be quarantined, and it was just like I felt like I was waiting just for us to go back into quarantine.
I agree. I definitely thought, I was like, well, we'll give it 2 weeks and see what's going to happen. And then as we progressed and we're like, oh, well, these people are being quarantined, but here are the precautions that the school is taking. I was like, well, I think they're really going to make this work. And that's when I started taking it a lot more seriously and doing my part and doing the temperature checks, hand sanitizer, constantly wearing my mask to make sure that us as students are doing everything we can to make it a safe environment for everyone.
Yeah, I was pretty worried, and even though the cases in the school were very low to none, I was still very worried. I wore a mask the first day because I was not confident that COVID wasn't just gone from here.
I was a little worried initially, but I think I was just more excited to like be able to see people's faces again and like not have to worry about like quarantine and everything and like social distancing. It was just like a little bit more relaxed than it was during the fall semester.
I was actually pretty excited that y'all removed that because I had teachers pretty often reminding me to put my mask back on, and I didn't think it was gonna no ups in cases or anything, and it's working out pretty well.
I thought that the school did the right thing in having us wear our masks for 2 additional more weeks, just like what do they call it, the incubation period for the virus. But yeah, I was definitely excited to be able to communicate really with my peers on a different level because, you know, they couldn't see me smiling, they couldn't see me frowning. It was really exciting.
I was excited too, but then I was also kind of nervous because face to face, like with no mask and everything, like germs start to spread everywhere. So I thought there might be like an uprising in cases.
I know who impacted my life really hard was Coach Blackwell. He's always pushed me really hard to be the best, and in, out of school, in sports, weight room, anything you can really think of, and just to be a better man, young man, better athlete, and a student. So yeah.
I definitely have had teachers impact me in a lot of different ways. I've had a lot of different teachers here, but the biggest impact has been through band, and my directors definitely.
Oh, yes.
Mr. Brannon and, Lil B and Mr. Gonzalez and Miss Chitty all are really good, and they make a really good team, and I know that they communicated a lot about how things would be different this year, but they weren't going to be different in terms of we weren't going to be as successful or we weren't going to try as hard or work as hard.
For me personally, I would say my health science teachers, Miss Robinson and Miss Goldsmith, they have just been such amazing resources for me and my peers in the healthcare field. I mean, we're learning so many things that are helping us not only in high school, but are going to help us. You know, a lot of us want to go into nursing as a major in college, and we're learning so many skills and topics that we can apply to our future careers. And it's amazing how invested they are in us and our future.
I would like to acknowledge all three of the ag teachers. They've all helped in different parts. Like Miss Martinez has helped us in the animal science and the full industry. Mr. Watson has helped us in the metal work in the shop, and Mr. Warnicki more in the livestock judging and showing cattle and stuff. He's helped us there a lot.
I want to point out all the coaches because I've been with them throughout all of my sports that I played throughout the year. They've pushed me to be better than what I am every day. They don't just push me to help me, they become my friends. They're there for me, that I can talk to them.
I would say for me, it would have to be Mrs. Martinez. I would call her a teacher, but I would also call her a friend. She's not only a role model in school, but she's also a big role model for me outside of school. She raises a family, yet she still makes time for her students, and she makes each and every person in her class feel like the top student of the year. She's so personable, and she really takes the time out of her schedule to make others feel special. I'll give you an example. Our dairy cattle judging team just made it to state, and instead of just saying, oh, congratulations, out of her own money, out of her own pocket and her time, she went and made state qualifying cookie cakes and presented them to the class. And that's just something that she really goes above and beyond to make her students feel like not adults, but in reality. You know, she doesn't want to feel like she's up here and we're down here. She treats us like we're responsible, we're mature, and I really enjoy that about her because it prepares us for our future careers and work life.
Another thing I've noticed just in Mineola as a whole is how different it is with, like, you know, like you were saying, leadership and stuff, and, you know, giving that responsibility to students, because that's something that will help us in the future, because we need to have the opportunity to learn that responsibility and practice it. That's something that I love that we do here, and definitely especially in band. Like, I'm very grateful that Mr. B has allowed me to be on the leadership team this year. It's definitely been like an amazing opportunity for me. I feel like I'm getting to like practice, you know, my responsibility skills and working with a team and like leading people and helping people with things, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity.
It's just that they want us to be better and trying to push us to be better than we were yesterday, and they expect a lot from us.
Never give up. Never give up in life. Never give up in something you started. You always finish it strong. I remember one day in the weight room, I quit. There's power clean. I quit it too early because we were doing heavy, and he told me, no, you're going to finish it. And my spotting partner came over and helped me, and I finished it strong. And that goes to show that he's there because he wants you to be better in life. And no matter you like him or not, you're always going to be successful.
They don't treat us as like a single student, like a number. They treat us as like we've met them for a long time. We've known them, like kind of like friends.
They don't just want us to just get tough. They want us to learn these life lessons throughout the year. They want us to be there for our families as we get older. They want us to be the man that we need to be.
Well, I just like all the opportunities that are here. I used to go to school in Dallas. I moved here back in 6th grade, and it's completely different. Like down there's no CDEs or anything, so there's nothing you can be involved in, and that's helped me a lot here.
I've been here my whole life. I grew up around all these people, and it's just a comfort place. I can talk to anybody. I'm friends with everyone. Even like he said, even if I don't know them, I still know them. And I like how they support all the little groups that are around here.
It's unique, and we have new stuff coming in, like such as the Mineola Education Foundation. They provide grants for the teachers that us students could use the products?
Well, being a smaller mid school, I kind of know everybody around here. I know even if I don't have her a teacher, or I don't have the coaches as a coach, or I know them on a personal level, and I can get to know them, and it's so easy to, everyone's like, hey, how you doing? It's not like, well, I don't know him or not, and it's just like when I walk into school every day in the morning, it's like, wow, this is like home to me, and whenever I graduate, I'm gonna miss this place.
Hey, thank you for joining us today. Today I'm gathered with our Teacher of the Year candidates from each of our campuses here in the district. To my right and to your left, I have Mr. DJ Warnicki, our high school Teacher of the Year candidate, our middle school Teacher of the Year candidate, Ms. Tina Peterson, and our primary Teacher of the Year candidate, Ms. Paige Clark. And so we're very thankful for them being able to join us this afternoon to talk about some of the issues that have come up over the past couple of, I guess, really a year and a half as we've kind of worked through COVID and had that experience. So let's go back to March of 2020. We go to spring break. We start hearing all the news, I guess that Friday, March the 14th, that COVID's becoming a reality. We're wondering if we're going to come back after spring break, and an announcement goes out that weekend that we're going to extend spring break for a week. What were you thinking? What were your thoughts around COVID? Give me some of your teacher perspective.
You always know where you're at. Just for example, 9/11. We the ones that are old enough to remember that, where you were at. Mm-hmm. And so we all know where we were at when this hit, COVID. I was getting ready in the ag truck, and we were taking kids to the Houston Livestock Show. We already had a one student out there showing his heifer, and I got the phone call that we have to get the animals out of the barn at the Houston Livestock Show by 4 o'clock because they've just closed down the Houston Livestock Show because of COVID. We had to get down there, get that heifer out of the barn, and I've never experienced anything like that before. And then you got about 15,000 kids that are in this building with all these animals from all walks of life from the state of Texas looking at each other like, what do we do? Because there was no protocol. There was nothing. So that moment, I knew this was something very big and very interesting.
My first impression was, I'll just be honest, yay, another week off. And I really just thought it would stop at a week. I never imagined in my wildest dreams after teaching all these years that it would go beyond maybe another week. I thought after a week we'll be back at school, we'll all get back to normal. Boy, was I wrong on that. Just totally unprepared and caught off guard on how to move forward in the new way of teaching in that moment.
Yeah. At that time I was pregnant actually, so I was like very nervous because I had no idea how COVID could affect me being pregnant if I was to get it or anything like that. So I was really caught off guard and nervous about it at the time. And then just my students, not getting to see them, and we didn't realize that we wouldn't get to see them and come back and see all their growth, because after spring break they always make this amazing growth, and it was such a bummer to not get to come back and see that.
So y'all walk me through the virtual instruction piece. We know that spring break got extended. It's looking like this thing might last for the rest of the year. You're moving to a virtual instruction format. Talk me through that process and some of the experiences that you had there.
So I was just thinking of, at the time, we didn't have Canvas back then, so I was thinking, how can I reach all of my parents? And I thought Facebook is a common, platform for everybody, so I ended up making a class Facebook page and kind of putting out instruction that way. I would make instructional videos in my living room, I would stack books up and get my iPhone and make videos of me doing work and stuff like that and post them for my kids to see and answer questions about. So now that we have Canvas, it would be completely different. I wish I had known then what I know now, but it was just any way I could possibly reach students at that point. I was trying to. And they actually all connected that way, and it worked out okay.
Awesome.
And for the middle school, originally getting, the kids were definitely buying into it, and they were signing in and being present in the Zooms. But lots and lots of phone calls with parents, lots of discussions with students, lots of, and originally, again, yes, using the Google Classroom and the Zooms, and just trying to connect with the students. Since we couldn't do it in person, just trying to be sure that I was a presence, and they knew that they could contact me if they needed to.
Well, it was really interesting for everybody, especially when you're talking about CTE. You know, what we had to do we're so hands-on learning. And I know a majority of our teachers are, but on the CTE side, what do you do? And that was the biggest question we had. What are we going to do? Mm-hmm. And for the short amount of time that we had, we came up with a really good plan. And we did the Zoom. We tried to get some instruction to them. You know, the welding was such a hard part to, how do you do that?
Yeah.
And we were so frustrated, but what we found out was everybody's in the same, we're all together here. And how are we gonna fight this? How are we gonna do this? And I thought we came together really nicely of trying to get some ideas. I even told the welding teacher, take a bottle of toothpaste on the welding, hold it upside down, and the same paste that you have when you're running that bead is squeeze that bottle of toothpaste, and you should run a line perfectly just like you do. And it worked. And so there's some cool ideas that we got on the internet too. And then another part that was so hard for us was the animals. We had all these animals, and the kids couldn't come up here to feed.
Oh, wow.
And so the ag teachers and parents, we had to come up here, and we had to distance ourselves from each other how to feed these animals. And of course, they didn't get to show their animals. You know, we did a virtual thing, which we were able to make that work. So I guess the biggest thing we saw, especially on the CT side, is how can we use technology? Mm-hmm. And it really opened our eyes, some possibilities we can even use.
I'll kind of connect with that is my robotics team. We had just started in robotics, and we're about to go to competition in a month. They lost out on all of that, but at the same time, with the robotics competition, we also have supplementary activities. Well, we continued with our supplementary activities. They had already chosen their activities. Some were doing works of art. One actually composed a piece of music because they were in band. And she did it through a website that she found that allowed you to do that. And it was amazing. She uploaded it to me. And so even though we didn't get to continue on with the robotics competition in itself, we still were able to do the supplementary activities and still teach to get them to do the higher level activities. So it was I thought it was a lot of fun.
So let's talk about the summer. We get to summer, and we're gearing up, thinking about the 2020-21 school year. We realize that we're going to be able to have face-to-face instruction. We start talking about face coverings, hand sanitizer stations, temperature checks, all these different things that we're going to put in place to have protocols in place to prevent COVID spread taking place in the district. What were y'all's thoughts getting ready to come back to school?
I was nervous. I was, personally, I've never been able to teach with anything covering my face. We've had some welding helmets and whatnot. It's very hard to talk when you have that helmet on, but I was nervous. I didn't know how well the kids were going to take it. I didn't know the attitude with the teachers and how positive we needed to be. But then it was interesting how all of us just kind of came together. We followed the protocols that was coming down to us, and it just seemed like everybody was kind of picking it up and figuring out how to deal with it. The teachers were amazing here, and I said this before. With our Teacher of the Year awards, all of us teachers deserve that award this year. Every single one.
Everybody had to pull together to make it work 100%. The way it did. I mean, with the custodians bringing the supplies into the rooms, working to make sure that the rooms were cleaned at the end of the day, at the beginning of the day, just the aides scanning as we came into the building, making sure that everybody that was home had devices and internet. Just everything had to work. Everything had, and everybody had to do their part. And yeah, was it harder? Absolutely. Trying to teach virtually and try to teach the kids in the classroom, would not want to do it again. It was twice the work.
It was.
Trying to contact them, trying to make sure that they had the directions, had the instruction, knew had any questions, and could still work to the level that they needed to, as if they were in class. It was a challenge. It was absolutely a challenge.
I was really nervous about coming back, and so like over the summer I was preparing because I was supposed to be on maternity leave until September, and so I was preparing for a sub and hoping that when I came back it would all be smoothed out and worked out. But I ended up being the virtual teacher for the first grade for the first 9 weeks, and then becoming the virtual teacher for the campus. And so that was a challenge, not that I was having to teach in person and virtually all at once, but trying to figure out how to reach people virtually and teach lessons that would be at the rigor that would be in class and help parents navigate all the technology because they hadn't been familiar with Canvas and all the Chromebooks and all these different new platforms. So it was a lot of troubleshooting at first, but after a while I figured out what worked and what didn't work and was able to kind of navigate through it.
So were y'all shocked when we get to the end of the first 9 weeks and, well, we start school and 98% of the kids are on campus and here we go. And we get through the first 9 weeks and a few more kids come back and we haven't shut down yet. What were you anticipating as the year started? Do you think we was going to shut down and have to close the doors?
I was
what were you thinking?
definitely holding my breath for that to happen, but I was really hoping that we didn't, because in-person instruction, there's just no comparison. I mean, kids just need to be in a classroom in front of a teacher, and I needed them because of the relationships that we build with our students. You can't do that through online. You don't get to see your kids. You don't get to know your kids. It's just very impersonal. It's very hard. It was very difficult. So not having them in my classroom just to me was one of the hardest things, I think.
Yeah, I thought that by like September, we'd be back to all virtual. So I was surprised and so glad that it was able to work out. I mean, everybody came together and it worked. So.
Yeah, I totally agree with. It's so hard, any subject, to teach virtually with anything, in my opinion. Especially, again, like I said, with CT. But it was so good to see those kids.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just, and did you notice that the kids were so happy to see us?
Yeah, they were.
I mean,
it
was like, I had some emotion.
They were thrilled to be back. They were absolutely thrilled to be back.
I mean, the emotion just coming out.
It makes me think about my college years when I don't know if y'all took any online classes.
Yes.
Trying to get a hold of the professor, trying to get answers to questions that they did or they didn't. It just feels disconnected. It feels like there's that human connection that is missing. And so it really, to me, that is a big part of being able to be back in the classroom. I'm so thankful that we were able to get back in the classroom.
100%.
So with the kids, I mean, we talked to a lot of students earlier today, and they were along those same lines. What'd you think when spring break got extended? A lot of them said, we was kind of excited about that. We didn't know what to anticipate.
Yeah.
And then as things went on, they realized that, man, I'm really missing my friends and I'm missing that social component. What was y'all's experience just talking with them? And I mean, did you see that pretty evident that they needed each other, needed to be around each other?
And one of the things I'd tell my kids was like, I know my English class is not the highlight of your day, but it's being here with the teachers, being able to communicate with them, getting to be socialized with your friends. It's who we are as humans, and as people, we need each other. We need that connection with each other. And so they were just as excited. And yeah, they complain about coming to school, like they're counting down because it's almost at the end of the year.
Yeah.
But they still need that connection. They still need each other and the support of the teachers.
Yeah. When we would have class Zooms, they would just get so excited, just see each other and talk to each other, and they want to show, their pets at home and all of their toys and stuff, but they just love getting to see each other. So it's so important for them to be together, and they realize how important each other really is.
I had one student tell me, Mr. Warnicke, last year, all my class, I was just looking at that clock, waiting for school to be over with, because I just wanted to get out of class. And now it's been taken away from me, and now I just want to get back there so quick.
Yeah.
So it gives you that perspective, different perspective.
That's really important.
Which, this is a great life lesson for all of us. This thing happened for a reason.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
In my United Nations class, we talk about that all the time, where different countries around the world, they're either not allowed to go to school, or they don't get to go to school like we do, like to the level that we do. Like maybe by 8th grade, they don't get to go anymore based on their background or whatever. And they're like, oh, well, I wish we didn't have to go. And now they have a different view of that, because now it's like
100%.
someone's telling me I can't come to school, and now that's changing my perspective, my understanding of what other people go through on a regular basis.
That's a good point.
So we get to spring break. We make a decision as the district that we're going to go a couple of weeks and we're going to keep masks on. And then after that, it's going to become optional for all of our students and all of our employees. What were you thinking through that process? And, you know, here we are, we're in week 3 of this continuing on. What do you think?
I mean, I was feeling pretty safe about it. I had gotten both of my shots at that point, and I don't know, it seemed like the COVID numbers were starting to level out, so I was feeling good about it, and I was really excited just to not have to wear a mask all day. And I mean, teaching reading especially, it's important for our kids to be able to see your face and your mouth and how you're forming the sounds and stuff like that, so it was just a good thing.
Yeah, I was very glad to have the mask mandate lifted, because just being able to understand the kids and for them to understand me, and being able to, I don't know, it just made things a little bit. Plus, I've got some kids that looked a lot alike, and I couldn't really tell what they looked like with their masks on. And now I'm like, I got you. I know you. I can see you.
Yeah.
And it made it. Yeah.
It was actually, sorry, I was just thinking
No,
about that.
yeah.
I was in another teacher's classroom, and I'd always had my mask on, and so one day, you know, when I finally had it off, they were like, "Oh, that's what your face looks like." It was so, I mean, it was so sad, but so funny at the same time. But yeah, they hadn't seen my mouth all year. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Going into it, I kind of used a little bit of animal science background, because in the bovine industry, we've had coronavirus for a long time, different viruses, and we give vaccinations to the cows for it. So I treat it just like any other virus. It's going to run its course, and we're eventually all going to have to get a little bit of it and whatnot, especially before the shots came out yet. And so I was pretty positive about it. And then I was tested positive for COVID. And in about 2 days, I was not feeling too good. And you remember I called you. I was out for almost 2.5 weeks. I was hurting really bad. And I thought, this is different. This is actually a serious one. This is really serious. And it really gave me a different perspective over it, that this thing came very quickly, and I can imagine how it's devastated so many people. And so I always took it serious, but it was a really hard one for me, personally. I was real surprised. I don't know about how y'all felt about it, how different it affected everybody.
Yeah.
It affected
Yeah.
somebody very mild, and then it affected someone real serious.
Yeah.
And I've never seen anything like that before, the short period I've been alive, because, you know, I'm only 40 years old now.
So, final question related to COVID. What did you learn through all this?
That's a great question. I'm going to let y'all answer first.
Flexible.
Flexibility. That's a good
word.
word. That is a good word.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I learned that things can change on an instant, and you just have to roll with it and problem solve and figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
I
much
agree
more
with that.
relaxed now.
Because things can change, and if you've been in education long enough, you know that things can change day in and day out, minute by minute even. Just if you're not a flexible person, then teaching is probably not a job for you. Because I mean, at the beginning of that year, I started with Edmodo, which is another online platform. Halfway through the year, we got more into Google Classroom, and then when we went virtual, it was I had to be very proficient at Google Classroom. And then at the beginning of the following year, so in 1 year's time, I learned 3 platforms that I had to learn really well in order to use them with my students and be able to answer questions and solve problems. So flexibility, I would definitely say is a good word for this experience.
I learned that I don't want to be stuck at home with my 3 boys for long. That was tough. That was really tough, you know. But it makes you appreciate you going to work and having some time away from your family and then coming back.
Yes.
So, but in overall, I will say that I found one thing that was the most important thing to me. That I found that this is my home. Mineola did a phenomenal job bringing all of us together for the situation that we didn't even have a protocol, and y'all were so fast at getting one to us and figuring out how we're going to fight this thing. So I appreciate you and the administration and our staff that's here did an amazing job.
And I'll agree with that as well. I mean, our campus, when we were notified that we weren't coming back for the year, we worked tirelessly to get every kid a Chromebook, every kid what they needed to be successful for the remainder of the year, and just the efforts that it was amazing to see how we all just like made a plan, put it in action, and it happened. And it just wasn't even a second thought.
Yeah. So young teachers watches this video, your Teacher of the Year candidates. What makes a great teacher?
I think someone that's patient and knows their students and is flexible and just able to, I don't know, adjust their instruction based off of what their students need, and being creative and not just knowing they have to stick to the plan, but able to go outside of that based off of what their students need. Just kind of adjusting.
And if the plan doesn't work, you gotta come up with a new plan.
Yes.
My entire lesson plan changed from the beginning of my scope and sequence was out the window, and I came up with a plan that would work for the kids from home, and still be able to teach them and for them to be successful.
My grandmother taught for 50 years. She has a school named after her, and she told me one thing, because I asked her the same question. And she said, love what you do, care for those kids, and go with a positive attitude every day you show up to work, and you're going to be great.
I like that. And one of my themes for my robotics and my United Nations class is positive attitude, cooperation, and participation. I said, if you come in with that, then you're going to be successful.
That's it.
What do you think makes Mineola ISD such a special place?
Hometown, so I love it already, but it's just the people in Mineola care for one another. They have your back. Our administration is just fabulous. I mean, everybody loves one another, like truly cares for one another and helps you out if you need help. They're just there for you.
The support and the connection I have, and like you said, the people at my campus I've known for 15 years. I've been here 16, 17 years. They are people I trust, and they trust me, and I could go to them with anything, and they're there for me.
Yeah.
Other than you. We got a pretty good football team, right, Coach? We got a pretty good football team. Overall, it's just a wonderful place to be. It's a wonderful place to live. This is our second year, my wife and I, with our 3 boys, and I literally feel like this is home. Everybody's just brought us in. It's been a trying year this year for all of us, and it just has really just pushed that check mark. Hey, this is home. So it's been a great place. It is a great place.
So tell us about support staff and just the whole team, the whole organization really coming together to support each other's efforts to meet kids' needs during this time. Talk about that a little bit.
I think like the custodial staff just went above and beyond to make sure things were cleaned properly, and just making sure that we had what we needed to be safe in our classrooms.
And in our campus, we had, of course, the temperature thermometer, the kiosks at the beginning, and then, of course, as the kids were coming off the buses, coming out of cars, their temperatures were taken, and that was through our aides daily coming into the building. We had the plexiglass that was distributed for each of the classrooms. Masks were always available for anyone that needed them. A hand sanitizer and cleaner in the classrooms. So everything that we needed was always taken care of. And I appreciate everyone's effort in that.
I give credit to the outside crew. They're not inside, but they really did a great job. They had to really double the work, because right before school started, these guys were coming in and reorganizing classrooms, shifting some things around, and it takes away from what they have to do outside. And so I was watching them, and they were literally doing double the work. So we have to definitely give 100% credit to those guys out there, because they did a great job.
I've got a great group that's gathered here today to talk to us a little bit about just their experience over the last year and a half dealing with COVID and trying to provide educational opportunities for our kids. As we go through the group here, we've got Coach Luke Blackwell, our head football coach and athletic director, Mr. Mike Sorensen, our high school principal, Miss Kendall Gould, our middle school principal, Miss Jolie Ray, our primary school principal, and Miss Brittany Thompson, our elementary principal. And so we're just going to go through kind of a timeline of events that took place. And Coach, we'll start with you and just kind of work down. And then the next question, Brittany, we'll let you take it and kind of work back this way. But first question is this. March of 2020 hits. And we're at spring break. And it seems kind of like the world's falling apart with COVID cases. And that weekend we make a decision that we're going to extend spring break for a week. What's going through your mind with everything that was going on around the state and around the country? What were you thinking?
Yeah, I think, probably the most obvious thing was just the big unknown. There's a lot of information being thrown around and not knowing one way or another what's accurate, what's not, what's going on. So, I think the immediate reaction in my mind was, okay, well, here we have another week, and then, we need to be prepared to get back in the swing of things, because at that time we've got spring sports are already in full swing. We got baseball and softball, track stuff going on, so we're already into things, and just being prepared to take that week off at that point and then be ready to go again.
I was at the state basketball tournament. The game shut down right then, and they shut the whole tournament down. So we're driving back thinking, man, this stinks. Played all year long, get to the state tournament, they shut it down in the middle of it. So when we got back to campus, we found out we were going to be gone another week. It was hooray. This was the first thing I thought. It's going to be great. A second week, 2 weeks off. It's going to be marvelous. And then it hit that we weren't coming back. That was the scary part, probably. Not so much from the kids' point of view, because we were already 1-to-1, so we knew from the ability to send them work, that wasn't going to be an issue. It was just how all that stuff was going to work together. And we found them very excited about it in the beginning and not quite as excited toward the end. So we learned a lot in the middle.
True. I just remember meeting in your office, those who were here, and our first thoughts were, how's this going to affect STAR testing? Because that's just our mode all the time. Is it going to count? Is it not going to count? Is that good? Is it bad? I just remember all that discussion that was going on, kind of a little bit awestruck a little bit, because this just doesn't happen. We just don't shut down school for anything. So that was kind of our initial reaction. And then of course we were all excited for another week off too. So we thought it'd be a week and then we'd be good to go. So yeah.
How wrong we were.
How wrong.
Wrong we were.
How wrong.
I was enjoying my spring break
Yes,
when
you
the
were.
word came
Yes,
that
you
we
were.
weren't coming back for sure for another week. And at the time it was just like, well, let's get through this week and we'll see where we are. But definitely, what are the plans and what do we have planned and what are we going to do about that was the biggest thing. And for us, we have the littles, so trying to reach them virtually and make plans for them through their parents a lot was definitely a challenge at times. But yeah, just had to roll with it.
Yeah. I wasn't in Mineola, but we were dealing with the same kind of things too where I was at the time, that we were not 1-to-1, so how are we going to serve these kids? How are we going to make sure that everybody has equitable access to what we need to give them to finish the year? So we were nervous about all the unknowns.
What did we learn about, virtual instruction? What did you learn through this process?
Everything. We didn't know anything. We learned what it was.
Yeah. Right.
I think, first of all, we learned the capabilities that are out there that we did not know. I barely knew what Zoom was when March hit. So learning that there is a way that we can all stay connected and communicate, that was the first big thing that we learned. But also learning what the teachers and as administrators, like what we have inside of us that we didn't know we had, to persevere and to keep going so that kids can continue to learn and grow.
The grit, for sure.
Yeah.
That there's a ton of virtual platforms. Because when we went, it was full autonomy. You just kind of had to let everybody do what they were comfortable with. And there was a lot of different ways to do the virtual teaching at that time and make it work for everybody's teaching style, because it had to be where they're comfortable, because everybody's technology love is in a different place. So definitely learned the different forms of it. And our biggest takeaway, I think, as a campus for our littles too, was the familial unit. looking at that virtually, how much that changed because parents became teachers, even though there was still a teacher. So trying to keep that familial unit intact virtually was a huge challenge and something we wanted to make a goal.
I was amazed at how I just felt like teachers reworked teaching, if I can say that. I mean, with just on a dime, it just was, yeah, it was no time whatsoever, and it had to be done. And they were able to rework something like what Brittany said, what was virtual teaching, and they were able to figure it out and go with it, and they helped each other. It was important for me to connect the campus so that we could stay connected. Through the Zooms, we would have weekly meetings, what's working, what's not working, and they would come up with ideas. This would be better if we did it this way. We were one-to-one, but we keep our Chromebooks on campus. And so we had to figure out, that was our first priority. How are we going to get our Chromebooks to everybody? We got to get the chargers, and so what's that going to look like? Because they can't come physically onto the campus. So it was just, we had to advertise it. It had to be a drive-by. And basically, because everybody had their own Chromebook that we had to pass out. So that was a lot of planning, consideration. We took pictures. I mean, we had Chromebooks lined up all the way down the hallway. We were there at 6 in the morning, ready to go. Had parents coming, but it was a lot of team effort, and everybody just worked together. But they just reworked teaching.
38 years in education, I'd never seen anything like it, and I thought I'd seen everything. Because in education, things change all the time. You get really good at testing, they're going to change it. You know, you get good at anything, they're going to change it.
Right.
So when this came through and it was something brand new, what are they? They're resilient. They find a way to make it work. I also found out what I believe in my heart is that the teacher's the lesson. The human connection is important. I drive through Whataburger, and what kids that you'd normally see in the hallway be working there, they'd say, "Coach, when can we come back to school? We want to come back to school." Now, they never said that before March walking through the hallway. They were ready to go. But they wanted to come back. They wanted the human connection. And, you know, we worked really hard at being as successful as we could be in it, and we survived. That's what I would say. We survived as best we could survive, did the very best we could with kids to make that happen. But I don't want to go through that again. I will wear a helmet with a face shield on it and a space suit or whatever it is to be here. It's just a different vibe or whatever you want to call it. It's a different thing when you can be there with your kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about the component from, you know, those kids that lost so much? Some of those best memories that you'd have as a senior. Things get shut down and they don't get to experience that until walking the stage. But all those other things up until that point, they didn't get to experience that. What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of that too, obviously, and having senior athletes that play sports in the spring, and a lot of those kids, you know, maybe that's the only sport that they play, or that's their favorite sport or their main sport or whatever. And you know, from a kid's perspective, and we remember this growing up, and we don't look that far ahead of time. The kids don't either. We don't, you know, look more than past the upcoming weekend sometimes, and we take a lot of things for granted. And I think, you know, for those kids, just very unfortunate, you know, that everything worked out the way they did for them. But I think long term, there's, you know, probably lessons that we can take from everything, and that's something we try to teach kids all the time is you know, take every day for what it is, which is a blessing, and the things that we have every day, and be humble in those things, and really learn to appreciate the things that maybe we do take for granted every day.
What about, we go to the summer, we get ready to start school this year. We're talking about what that's going to look like. Face coverings, hand sanitizer stations, temperature checks, bus monitors, social distancing. All these things that we're trying to put in place to be able to make a school year happen. What were your thoughts when we were getting ready to roll it out and have kids for that first day? What was going through your mind?
How are we going to get it all done? How are you going to get all of the instruction done and make sure we're keeping all that in place? I think it just went back to training. And once everybody got in a routine and a system, it worked out well, but that was the first thought. We got to train on all this before we can even talk about gaps in instruction and learning. What are we going to do for COVID?
Yeah.
How to avoid getting COVID, biggest thing.
Right.
What are the potential issues that we haven't thought of, because we spent so much time talking through all the little scenarios and the day-to-day processes, but what are the things that we're not thinking of that might come up and happen, and figuring out how to deal with that stuff.
Well, our concern was, my whole mission was the teachers. They were scared. I mean, they didn't know what it was going to look like for them, stuck in a classroom with all these kids, sneezing and whatever on them. So we had to do a lot of just emotional, and then not only that piece, but then they had the hybrid piece too. So, and little things like taking attendance. I mean, gosh, that took us a half a day just to try to figure out how we're going to do remote attendance. I mean, all that stuff was just, it was a stressor for sure. So my focus was just teachers and trying hard to support them so that they could do their job. But I'm the same with Jolie. It took us a good 9 weeks before we started really truly instructing kids to where everybody felt safe coming to school, procedures were in place, and we could get down to business. It took a while.
Parents.
And ensuring parents, that was another piece too. Yeah, we had to do a lot of that
But
too.
the beauty of all of that, though, is we were here every day.
Yes,
There's
yes.
school districts around the state that are still fighting that piece. And how
Right.
quickly did this community come together,
True.
the outer community and the school community, to get those kids here day one, to work through the things we didn't know. And then it became a part of who we are every single day. And then it was really fun when we got to spring break. And you got to see what they look like.
Oh, right.
What they were talking about.
Right.
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 So the whole
I don't know
process
what we
was.
look like. A lot of ours, it was the first time on our campus. Our kindergartners and 3 and 4-year-olds were like, "Oh, that's you."
Yeah,
So,
first
it
sixth
was-
graders
it
were the
was
same way.
interesting,
Yeah.
to see
Well,
that.
and trying to build connections with teachers and students as a new administrator, that kind of made
Oh
it a
yeah, I
little
bet that was hard.
difficult. And trying to have parents trust somebody that they don't know necessarily.
And can't really see.
Yeah, it was a scary time for a lot of parents. But our teachers really soared when it came to that. They were so reassuring, and they are part of this community. And so until we could get to the point where we were building connections and relationships with people, they kind of bridged that gap for me and for Ms. Shine. Like, we all focused on, her and I focused on how can we support our teachers? How can we make sure they feel safe and have everything that they need to support these kids? And the teachers all worried about the families and the community members that needed their support and their reassurance to get them back. And it was shocking to me how quickly it got to normal for us. I felt like it did not, from the routines to the way the classrooms were set up, every time I would bring another thing like, okay, we need to try to keep these pods moving at the same time. Okay, let's figure it out. Like, they were very supportive, and flexible was a word that was used earlier. It kind of blew me away.
And, when we started on August the 13th, if somebody would have came and told you that, listen, you're going to have 98% of your kids on campus, and then at the start of the second 9 weeks, we're going to move that to 99%, and you're never going to shut down the entire year, and we're going to be at this point today where we are, what would you have said to that?
We all had bets.
Yeah, we prayed
totally
to make
had
it to
bets.
Christmas. We really did.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, they're gonna make us take Star again, so we've got to at least get till Christmas. Like, we've got to try to push as much as we can, as hard as we can, because at Christmas, everybody's going to be with their families. It's all going to shut down again. When we came back in January, I was like, okay, we may make this thing, but I would not have believed that.
If you listen to the newspapers and the public reporting and all that kind of stuff, you wouldn't have thought so.
Right.
If you'd have been here for the first faculty meeting in here, high school wasn't shutting down. By gosh, band, athletics, ag, all those people like that, they would take their kids in season and move them to another area for lunches, and when you had the big gatherings and things, just to ensure that we didn't have any contamination kind of issues there. The bus people, from the time the kids stepped out of the house, they were taking care of those kids. We had people here at 7 o'clock in the morning doing it. This campus wasn't shut down. The other 3 y'all might have shut down. But we
Hey,
were
when,
going to
when it went
playoff.
through our staff, everybody was like, "What do I need to cover?
I
So
know.
we don't shut down.
It's
You want me to
just-
teach 5 grade levels? I'll do it."
But it's
Yeah,
the
we'll do
beauty
it.
of a small school
Yes.
too. You know, in a big
that's
school,
true.
you're kind of isolated. Here, everybody's grabbing hold of the rope. Everybody is.
That's so true.
Just how it works.
Because all of our staff
Especially in
jump and
Mineola.
cover.
I've been in several school districts, but we rock it here, just telling you. So you've got kids that need to go to a great place. This is it right
They
here.
got to wear orange.
Super education, and we win at everything. So here we go.
From your perspective, I mean, tell your story.
Well, I mean,
District Executive Committee meeting
you know,
in Commerce.
well, there's a lot of, I mean, it's a lot of what ifs. I mean, you've got the unknown for, how are we going to be able to survive? You know, how many games are we going to get to play? Are we going to get to play? Are we going to get to have fans? How many fans? You know, who gets in, who doesn't get in? I mean, just all of those unknown situations and what ifs that are getting thrown around. But, you know, the beauty of all of it to me was, you know, we had everything happened in the spring, the unexpected. Then, you know, from our perspective, from the UIL perspective, we opened some things back up in the summer. So that first week of June, whatever that date was, when they said we could have kids back up here, we had like 99% of our kids, and that's, you know, and that's girls, boys. I mean, it's everybody.
ready.
These kids were either chomping at the bit to get out of the house, or mom and dad were chomping at the bit to get them out of it.
Right.
You know, whatever the scenario was, but they were, you know, they were so excited to be back up here and back to doing things every day. And so I think when we got around to starting school again, you know, the question was, you know, how long are we going to go? Well, I don't know the answer to that, and neither did anybody up here. But I think we all came together in the mindset that we wanted to do everything we could do every day to give the kids a chance to get back to normal, to be able to play football and participate in band or go to in-person class. And then it's really you know, it's a group effort. It's a willingness on everyone's part to step outside the box a little bit and do things, you know, that are atypical, things that we're not having to do before, and do those extra things. And
So let's shift the focus to leadership a little bit. What'd you learn during this time of management during a crisis? What'd you learn about leadership?
To be calm and flexible and focus on circle of control, because there was so much out of our control. But if we could just focus on what we could control and nurturing our staff and nurturing our students and our parents the best we could to get
Don't
through
jump
it.
off your Stephen Covey.
Love me some Covey.
Being proactive, just trying to figure out like how to stay ahead of it. So what are we, you know, at the beginning I got a little bit overwhelmed just because it was all very new to me, the principalship, and now we're also in the middle of a pandemic. So trying to figure, it was almost like I was planning too much, but to take a step back and think, you know, week by week, like, okay, what can we look ahead? What is a potential problem that we can go ahead and have a plan in place for? The first positive case we got, I remember my heart just kind of stopped a little bit, and I thought, okay, this is what we have planned for. Let's put it into action. And in 15 minutes, we had it all wrapped up and ready to move on. So I think moving forward away from this time in space, I'm just trying to remember to take it one moment at a time instead of trying to overplan. Just be proactive for things that, you know, anticipate what maybe could go wrong and celebrate the things that go right and keep moving. So.
And then you brought testing, so I had to be proactive with that too when we brought
Right.
the testing. But that was a good thing. We were able to really,
that helped us be proactive.
Yeah, to be able to identify quicker and not have that wait time. And I think that's one reason we got to stay face to face, for sure.
I just say supporting the teachers and the value of that. And when I mean supporting the teachers, I mean I always support the teachers instructionally, but the emotional piece was something that was, I mean, you always want to have a great campus culture and that kind of thing, and we do. I just really realized that they needed support in order to do their job. They needed to feel safe. They needed to feel taken care of. Just even getting, you know, when we ordered all those, I don't know, what are they called, shields?
Face shields?
Yeah, well, no, not the face
No,
shields. The
the
shields
dividers.
on
The dividers.
that was a game changer. That made people feel a little more secure to be able to create their rooms if they needed to. So that was my biggest takeaway, is to always be aware of that.
like they take their cue from us, not as in they wait to see what we do, but they do watch for our reactions, because I know I watch for your reaction. So it all comes from the top down, like to make sure that we are staying calm and positive, but that can only happen, for me anyways, if I have a plan in place. If I know, this is going to help us or help prevent us from having to go home or from shutting things down.
Right. And they didn't want to go home.
No.
They didn't want. I mean, everybody understood that it was so much better face to face.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what I did. The message was always what we can control, what we can do, making sure the kids and the teachers knew that we'd be very consistent, that we would be transparent and open about anything that went on the campus and how we were handling it, that kind of thing. And then, you learn to be a real good listener. Because people want to be heard. They see it from a different lens, or they've experienced it differently in their families. And so you listen to that, and you take that in, and you spend time loving them and reassuring them, and then you go out and be you. Yeah.
And I think these are, everything you heard here, all good examples, the elements of leadership in different ways. Ultimately, it's us coming up with a plan, and being able to put answers together and plans together without knowing all the information, but be able to put something out there to try to relieve some fear and anxiety of the unknown, and to communicate that sense of calm, like y'all said, a sense of calm and reassurance for people. I got a mom at home too, and I remember having some of those conversations too in the spring and early summer. Is this a good situation to send our kids back to school too? And I think, us coming up with plans and being proactive, right or wrong, but putting that foot forward and presenting it that way, and standing behind, together, standing behind what we think and what our plan is, and I think all of that is leadership.
Some of the changes that we made on campus came from teachers and kids who would bring ideas in. And you could implement those things right there for the safety of the kids or the safety of us and how we wanted to do things. It was kind of neat.
Yeah, Mike brings a good point was the listening. You said that a minute ago, listening, because there's things we haven't been through, and there's a lot of answers we don't have, but we're willing to take feedback from other groups, from kids, from staff members, from teachers, and collectively try to come up with the best plan we can come up with.
Right.
As we close out, a couple of weeks away from Teacher Appreciation Week, tell me a little bit about what they've been able to accomplish this year.
Wow, a lot.
What they've been asked to do.
Man.
They have been gracious, resilient, had lots of perseverance as we've tried different things, and first and foremost been there for the kids and the families, like you were talking about with the families, and that reassuring voice, because a lot of times as the campus admin, we're the big bad wolf, but there's a lot that a teacher can kind of help solve before it ever gets to us. And I would just say that is their biggest asset, is just being that bridge between the two, like Brittany was saying, but for sure that resilience, because it was a different year coming in, for sure. And they had to make 2 game plans, how to deal with COVID and how to still instruct the kids, and how to do both with grace.
And you could see it. I know there are times that you could see it on their faces. It was heavy. There was a lot that went into this year, but I can say honestly, I never heard one complaint. I never heard one gripe about everything that we were having to do to make sure that our students were safe and being educated face to face. And I had staff members that lost family members to COVID this year. I never had people bail out or stop coming. They stayed so intensely focused on what their goal was, which was to educate those kids. And I could not be more proud of the work that they've done this year.
I missed it so much in the spring that there was boots on the ground and let's go.
Right.
Absolutely.
We talk about family a whole lot on all of our campuses and how that is. And it really shows up when it's tough. And I'll say it, this has been a hard year. They've come in, they taught on 2 different platforms to start with. They went from Google to Canvas. We have kids coming and going. You don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. but they love each other. We'd get somebody sick here, and they'd use their conference periods to cover classes for us because we didn't have enough subs to go across the campuses. Then we get to this part of the year right here, and you know, they're fighting for those kids to be successful on a state exam, where the real thing, not only have we been undergirding them academically, but that social emotional piece that y'all have been talking about, they've had to fill gaps on that from those kids, because they've come in with some new challenges that they've had. We've got kids that are out there trying to work to help the families put food on the table or pay bills and do all that kind of stuff. So it's been a massive undertaking, and we're blessed. I know that sometimes education's hard, it's tough, it's underappreciated, there's a lot of words that go on that. But in this place here, it's special. It's special. It's the longest I've been anywhere in my life. I've been to several schools. I know what's good and what's not good. I do. And we're blessed here.
Yes.
And I'd fight for any one of them up here. And I hope we can keep them all. Hope they stay here for a lifetime. It's good people.
I mean, just to piggyback, obviously the teaching aspect, just amazing, just with the challenges that the year's brought. I mean, obviously it's been essentially double the work, for these teachers and things that they're not accustomed to doing, but having the willingness to do it just says a lot about the people that we have here. And even when you step beyond the teaching, you're talking about staff, think about, the adjustments that our maintenance departments had to make and sterilize and making sure that things are clean and separated. And our transportation department trying to figure out the bus situation, how we're going to get kids on and off, and how we're going to transport, and food services trying to figure out that piece of it. I mean, it's all of those little things, but it's a willingness as a family for each group to be willing to do their part and step outside the box and do more than we've been asked to do and had to do before. But to put all of those pieces together, for the betterment of our kids, and to have the opportunity to get our kids back on campus and back to in-person instruction.
Yeah, the focus for the kids, definitely, they've been so focused for them. But even like you were saying too, it's like taking care of each other. They have done an amazing job of taking care of each other too. And when we had to do Chromebooks out, it was like, okay, if you're interested in coming, nobody was made to or whatever, the whole campus showed up. The whole campus showed up to distribute Chromebooks and to get them back. We had to get them back once we gave them out. So it's been a huge family atmosphere, and I think it's just in the district total, not just within a campus, but within the district.
Last question. Everything that's been done here for the entire organization, what about community support too? Just why is this a special place to be, special place to call home, live, work? What have you seen from that side of things?
Just amazing support.
Yeah, the generosity. Even in times when that businesses are struggling, this has been a hard time for everybody, not just education. And I have never been in a place that has given this much, even in times not in want. And they are just so willing to give. I know we've had so many different organizations that have donated water and supplies and things, and we'll always say, like, when you run out, ask, we'll give you more. It's just been so awesome to see the support.
Well, just the fact that the first thing that the community was concerned about was, are these kids going to get fed? And then it went from the kids getting fed to the whole family getting fed. And everybody, the community just came out in droves. That was the most important thing first and foremost when we shut down. And that just shows the love of the community for sure.
I look at the school board as the first face of the community. Unpaid volunteers working down here all the time. And it would be real easy to kind of shell up a little bit, say we're just going to protect our own. But they've done what they've always done. They've made sure the campuses had exactly what they needed moving forward. They've been proactive in looking to the future on how we're going to build those supports in the kids and what do our programs need and that kind of thing. We're very fortunate in our school board in the way that they interact with us. And then I remember the parade and stuff that we had through town.
I forgot about that.
Oh, that was some of the coolest stuff right there.
Was fun.
People out on their porches waving at you and all that kind of thing. And it's just pieces. People bringing things to school, water, whatever it happens to be, and all
Put
that.
out a call for something, it shows up.
It just does.
In abundance. In abundance.
Yeah.
And I'll say that, you know, to me, that willingness and support has always been there in this community, has always been special like that. I think it's times of adversity and challenges and things that we're seeing now that you really notice the outpouring and the willingness to help and you know, just try to fill whatever needs that we have. And I think there's been an abundance of that this year. But I think it's always been there. I think it's always been there. It just shows what type of people that we have in this community and how supportive they are of our kids and our school district and our programs. And that's what makes it a special place.
Y'all are so young, y'all don't remember Mayberry RFD, but I call this Mineola America because it reminds me of that small community where everybody knows everybody loves it. You know every police officer, every fire department person. You go into a store and they know you by first name and who your kids are. That's just who we are. I love it.
We give it our all day long, but we still, with that family community that we have, we laugh and we love and we just get along so well, and that really shows with the staff. And when you can see it with the staff, that just trickles down to the students and then the families, which in turn goes out in the community because these students grow up here. So it just kind of, for lack of a better word, infects everyone. But when the staff loves like they love each other, that just makes it a happy place. And they do truly love each other.
Right. It is a family community for sure. For sure. The whole town is a family community. And within each campus is a family community too.
I like the motto that's on the wall up there, pride through excellence. And to me, that's what we're all about right here. It doesn't matter what department, what campus, where you step in. We like to win in Mineola. We want to win if it's checkers. We want to win if it's star test. We want to win on the football field, band concert. It doesn't matter what it is. And we want to win loving kids. So if you want a place that is bought in, sold out on being the best, no matter what it is, this is the place to be.
I would say what makes the district special is from transportation to food service to maintenance to academics to administration to athletics, everybody advocates for kids. Everybody. It's whatever we can do to make the kids successful, and that's what makes Mineola a special place to be.
On Monday, May the 3rd through Friday, May the 7th, we have the opportunity to celebrate Teacher Appreciation Week. We can't thank our teachers enough for all of their hard work, their dedication, especially during this trying time of dealing with a global pandemic and also educating our kids. So teachers, thank you for everything that you've done. Thank you for all that you accomplished for our kids, and thank you for what you mean to Mineola ISD.